Mr. and Mrs. Williams were successful professionals. He was a civil engineer. She was a consultant. Their home in Abuja was beautiful enough to appear in a lifestyle magazine. They had 3 children, Daniel, Grace, and Samuel. Their rule was simple. Excellence is not optional, but character is non-negotiable. Yes, their children attended the best schools. Yes, they had private tutors. Yes, they had access to everything. But they also had chores. Real ones. Daniel once complained, "Dad, we have 2 housekeepers. Why am I washing plates?" Mr. Williams replied calmly, "Because the plates belong to this family. And so do you." Grace learned to cook. Samuel cleaned his own room. Every Saturday morning was family responsibility hour. No excuses. No disappearing into bedrooms with headphones. They attended church regularly. They had family devotion. They practiced greeting elders properly. When Daniel once said, "What's up?" to an elderly uncle instead of greeting respectfully, his father paused the entire gathering. "Son," he said gently but firmly, "confidence is good. Disrespect is expensive." Daniel greeted again. Properly. The Williams children sometimes felt their parents were old-fashioned. They envied classmates whose parents believed Wi-Fi was parenting. But something steady was being built inside them. Just a few streets away from them lived the Johnson family. Dr. and Mrs. Johnson were brilliant and extremely successful. Their twin children, Ethan and Chloe, were academic superstars. They won competitions. They topped classes. Teachers praised them endlessly. The Johnson rule was even simpler. As long as you bring home A's, you can do whatever you want. Chores? No, let them focus on their future. Church? They are too busy for that. Greeting elders? They're global kids. Let them express themselves. When Ethan snapped at a driver for being too slow, Mrs. Johnson laughed. "He's just ambitious." When Chloe rolled her eyes at her grandmother, Dr. Johnson defended her. "She's confident." At home, the twins didn't clean, didn't serve guests, didn't apologize. They excelled in academics. They failed in humility. But in Abuja competitive social circles, achievement glittered brighter than character. And the Johnsons were proud. Years passed. Abuja continued expanding. New malls opened. New estates developed. New luxury apartments rose into the skyline. And the children grew. Daniel Williams. Daniel studied business management abroad but returned home. He believed in building local capacity. He started a logistics company. In his first week, he surprised his staff. He greeted everyone, including the cleaners. One employee whispered, "Is he new to Nigeria?" Daniel treated people with respect. He listened before speaking. When mistakes happened, he corrected without humiliating. His company grew steadily. Not just because of strategy. Because people wanted to work for him. Grace Williams. Grace pursued education and later launched a foundation supporting public schools around the outskirts of Abuja. She personally visited classrooms. One day, a volunteer asked her, "Why are you so hands-on? You could just supervise from the office." Grace smiled. "My mother says if you can serve, you're not leading." Her foundation became known not just for funding, but for integrity. Samuel Williams. Samuel became a lawyer. He was sharp, articulate, disciplined. But what made him stand out was his fairness. He once refused a lucrative case because the client was clearly guilty and wanted to manipulate the system. His colleagues were shocked. "You turned down that money?" Samuel shrugged. "My surname is Williams. I'm not selling it." Meanwhile, the Johnson twins. Ethan Johnson became a tech entrepreneur. Brilliant mind. Revolutionary ideas. But he treated meetings like battlefields. If someone disagreed, he humiliated them. Employees lasted an average of 6 months. One HR manager quit after Ethan said, "If I wanted feelings, I would buy a dog." His company grew quickly. And burned just as quickly. Investors began whispering. Chloe Johnson became a medical doctor. Technically excellent. Emotionally unavailable. Patients complained she was cold. Nurses avoided her shifts. One elderly patient once said gently, "Doctor, you are very smart, but you don't look at people when they speak." She dismissed it. "I don't need to look caring. I need to be competent." But medicine requires both. As time went on, Ethan faced a major lawsuit due to internal company misconduct. Several employees accused him of creating a toxic workplace. He sat alone in his luxurious penthouse overlooking Abuja city lights. For the first time, there were no applause. No awards. No grades. Just silence. He remembered mocking Daniel years ago. "Why are you greeting drivers like they're your cousins?" Now his own driver avoided eye contact. Chloe faced a malpractice investigation, not for incompetence, but for negligence rooted in dismissiveness. Her medical license wasn't at risk yet. But her reputation was. For the first time, intelligence wasn't enough. Meanwhile, the Williams family gathered for dinner. They laughed loudly. They teased each other. Mr. Williams jokingly said, "So Daniel, you're still washing plates in your own house?" Daniel replied, "Yes, sir. Plates are generational." They all laughed. But beneath the humor was truth. They had been trained for adulthood. Daniel was married with children. And one Saturday morning, in a house just as beautiful as the one he grew up in, his young son stood at the sink, struggling to rinse a plate. "Dad, why do I have to do this?" the boy groaned. Daniel smiled, rolling up his sleeves beside him. "Because one day, you'll have your own home. And I won't be there." Across the house, his wife laughed as their daughter tried to fold clothes, badly. "Not like that," she said gently. "Let me show you." There was laughter. There was patience. There was teaching. The same lessons continued. Grace's home was no different. Her children greeted visitors warmly, helped set the table, and knew that respect was not optional. Samuel, now a father too, once told his children during dinner, "In this house, we don't just live together, we serve each other." And they did. Their homes were not perfect, but they were stable. Not because life was easy, but because they were prepared. The Johnson reality: success without life skills. Ethan and Chloe Johnson also had families. Beautiful homes. Expensive furniture. The best schools for their children. But behind the polished image, things were different. One evening, Ethan stood in his kitchen staring at a sink full of dirty dishes. The housekeeper had called in sick. His wife was out of town. His children were hungry. And for the first time in his life, he was confused. He picked up a plate, turned it around awkwardly, and muttered, "Where do I even start?" His teenage son, scrolling through his phone, didn't even look up. "Just order food, Dad." Ethan sighed. Not because of the dishes, but because he realized something deeper. He had never learned how to take care of a home. And worse, he had not taught his children either. Across town, Chloe faced a similar struggle. One weekend, her daughter walked into the living room. "Mom, there's no food." Chloe, exhausted from work, replied, "Check the fridge." "I did. There's nothing ready." A long silence followed. Chloe knew how to perform complex medical procedures. But cooking a simple meal, organizing a home, those were things she had always outsourced. Now, her daughter stood there, equally unprepared. Frustrated. Dependent. Lost in the simplest responsibilities of life. In the Williams homes, children were being raised to live. In the Johnson homes, children were being raised to cope. One evening, during a rare social gathering, Daniel and Ethan met again after many years. They laughed, reminisced, and caught up. Then Ethan said quietly, "You know, we were smarter than you in school." Daniel smiled. "I know." Ethan continued. "But somehow, you figured out life better." Daniel paused, then said gently, "It's not about figuring it out later, it's about being taught early." And so, in Abuja, the difference became clear, not in bank accounts, not in degrees, but in homes. The Williams children built families filled with love, responsibility, and stability. The Johnson children built lives that looked successful, but struggled under the weight of what they were never taught. Because in the end, it's not just about raising children who can pass exams. It's about raising children who can wash a plate, cook a meal, respect others, build a home, and stand on their own. Because one day, life will remove the helpers. And what remains is what you were taught.